Welcome to the Road to the Oscars. I'm Carter Pilcher, the founder of ShortsTV, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you the first podcast in our new series. I'm joined by the unbelievably talented and Emmy-nominated entertainment journalist, Rasha Goel. And Rasha has an amazing background. She's been on the red carpet for many years and seen the ins and outs of award season. And we're just thrilled to be joined by her and have her expertise with us. Rasha, it's great to have you.
Thanks, Carter. I'm so excited to be here with you, too. I think, can I just say, the Oscars is just such an amazing time. You drive through Hollywood when they're setting everything up and there's this nostalgia and there's this, excitement in the air, and just everything is so different during that time. And especially for short filmmakers, to see the creativity that they're able to bring onto this platform from all across the world. So I'm thrilled to be here to be talking to you. And yeah, I just think that the Oscars is a very, very exciting time for all of us here, not only in Hollywood, but even all across the world.
Every year you meet and see people with an amazing background who are regular students or making their first film making. Some of them are big professionals making a short film also for the first time. And so you get Disney professionals, emerging talent going head to head. And it's one of the most competitive races in the entire Oscar firmament. So it's really, I think, a very interesting, an amazing place to be, just to see the competition that's here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think it gives everybody this fair ground of a stepping platform to bring their creativity out. And I love seeing all the different ideas and concepts that people bring forth.
And the fact that they're just regular human beings. I love that. This award season is getting off to a start very quickly. As you know, the Golden Globes happens on the 28th of February. The Oscars is 2 months after that. So we're very excited that it's just all starting right now. This award season is going to be probably one of the most interesting ever.
Oh, I think so, especially with the pandemic, and just it's changed everything. And I have to say, Carter, as we continue, I do feel for the people, though, that will not be able to engage in person, because I think there's just such a different excitement to that. But speaking of that, guys, one thing that Carter and I definitely want to talk about today is about the filmmaking. I mean, there's a lot of you short filmmakers that are out there. You have a great idea, you've pulled your resources and even some favors together, but now what happens? Like, where do you go from here? So, Carter, help explain that to me.
Well, we've got some great guests today that are going to help us figure out what the first step is. And, the first step is just getting yourself qualified. And today we're going to speak to one of the grand poobahs from the Academy of Motion Pictures, an amazing guy. We're going to look at some people who recently got qualified from outside the United States. I think it's an exciting group of guests.
Yeah, I'm very excited to speak to them. So why don't we just get this started?
Great.
Jon, it is such an honor to have you here with us. Thank you for joining us today. This is an exciting time in Los Angeles and for filmmakers around the world. Award season has officially started. Let's start off by talking about the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. I mean, it is such an important organization, and a lot of people just associate with the Oscars, but I'm sure there's so much behind the scenes that they're not aware of.
Well, that's true. The Academy, as we often call it, is getting to be a very big organization now. We have 9,000 plus members. The Academy is comprised of 17 branches. The branch that I am one of the governors in is the Short Films and Feature Animation branch, the home of animation in the Academy, and also the home of short film awards for animation and live action, as well as the Feature Animation Award. Now, those 17 branches represent all the crafts: directors, writers, actors, producers, as well as us, and cinematographers and editors and production designers, and you name it, costume designers. These are the branches of the Academy. 3 governors in each branch are elected by the branch to a 3-year term. And We're kind of like the Senate, the U.S. Senate. We're elected, we represent the branch, and that's kind of how it works.
Well, I would say it's a very exciting time right now, not just for, members of the Academy, but also for filmmakers across the world. And so with that, I would love for you to take a few minutes to explain to us the process of how a short film actually qualifies for an Oscar, because I understand there's two main ways.
That's true. And it's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically true. Let me start by saying that I'm a previous nominee myself. I was nominated back in the Middle Ages in '84, and I produced and directed a Somerset Maugham English author, Somerset Maugham short story, and got some wonderful actors to star in it. Louise Fletcher, who won Best Supporting Actress for Nurse Ratched in Cuckoo's Nest, and Robert Loggia, great character actor and also a former nominee for Mancuso character he played in Jagged Edge. This is my background too. I think of myself as a filmmaker, and that's why I'm so glad to be able to be in this position now to help these future filmmakers navigate and embrace the Academy experience. Of course, it's tough. We have a couple of hundred live action films. I think we have close to 100 animated shorts. And from those, it goes from the group of eligible films down to a short list of 10. So those are the top 10. And from the top 10, the short list is again judged and evaluated and voted on. And from those top 10, we end up with usually, it's not automatic, but usually 5 nominees. And from the 5 nominees, the entire Academy selects the Oscar winners. And that's the
I see.
quick voting process for the short films. Eligibility does essentially come down to 2 routes, but there's more to it than that. But the big requirements, and that's what you were referring to, are twofold. There are 2 essential routes that a film must follow to qualify. Either to run in a theater twice a day minimum, 7 consecutive days. Pre-pandemic, it was LA County. We loosened it up a little bit this year because of the pandemic and because of the lack of theaters. But in general, it's LA County 1 week run in a theater. And that's something that's a kind of 4-wall. It's something a filmmaker will pay for, although some organizations do run collections of shorts and help qualify films. In general, it's up to the filmmaker to do it and show that they had the run. And in having the 7-day theatrical run, a short qualifies, like all Academy movies, as having been released theatrically.
Right.
The alternative entry eligibility route is that the branch maintains a list of a little less than 100 worldwide film festivals that celebrate shorts. Some of the festivals are shorts only. Some are Cannes and New York Film Festival and a lot of big Sundance, a lot of very big, well-known festivals. And what we require is a film to win some limited prizes that we designate. In general, the prize is the grand prize, the top short award. Some festivals are allowed more than 1 qualifying award, 2 or 3, and that's the requirement on the festival route, which allows a filmmaker not to have to do any of the theatrical qualification. By winning a qualifying festival that we recognize at the Academy, that qualifies a film for entry as well as the alternative route. So it's either the theatrical run that you pay for as a 4-wall or winning a qualifying festival in a category that we recognize.
You have provided us with such a wealth of knowledge. I truly feel this so many golden nuggets to take away. Could you tell us what you're most excited about or looking forward to as we near the actual Oscar ceremony?
Well, what I find very exciting is a good film. We all, have this passion for movies. But the fact of the matter is, whether we're watching TV at home or we're watching on a big screen with an audience like we used to in the olden days, and hopefully we'll be back to soon, that magic, that excitement of being taken somewhere and being really emotionally moved and touched and engaged when you watch a movie is the essence of what keeps bringing us back into the theater and back to watch a program on TV, because of the humanity that we connect with when we get to identify with a film. And that to me is always the excitement. And in the judging process, to be able to find those films and discover them is what's the turn on for me. It's not fair to say you're looking for a needle in a haystack, because the fact of the matter is that almost all of the eligible films are good films. We get, I think, a little less than half of our eligible films from the festival route, and therefore a little more than half from the qualifying theatrical run route. And those two routes provide our films. There isn't one that's better than the other. They're both valid and good. It's cheaper not to have to rent a theater, but it's not free to enter festivals and to pursue that route either. And believe me, winning Sundance is no small feat. It's probably tougher than getting an Oscar nomination. So that to me is the excitement. And when I see a film and it brings a tear to my eye, I just have to say, wow. And I've been fortunate already to have that experience with some of this year's eligible films. And I just hope that enough people agree with me that that was a good film, that it doesn't go away after I've looked at it, but it ends up being shortlisted and maybe being nominated and maybe even being our Oscar winner.
Thank you so much, Jon Bloom, for being a part of Road to the Oscars. It's really, truly been an honor and a pleasure having you on our show.
So glad to do it.
Jon is a wealth of information. What a great guy. Rasha, he's not just a great guy. He's an important guy in Hollywood. He has spent longer on the Academy of Motion Pictures Board of Governors than just about anybody. From the things he pointed out about the process, though, what stood out to you?
Well, Cara, first of all, I'm going to say I could spend hours talking to Jon. Like you said, he has so much to share, and it's just, wow, beautiful knowledge. You know what stood out to me was the qualification process, the two ways that you either have a theatrical release for your film or you're a festival winner. And I think that information is so important for anybody who wants to make a short film.
Well, and it's really interesting because the next group that we're going to talk to is people who qualified their films theatrically. I think that's going to be kind of an interesting discussion.
And yes, they're from India.
And so how does that make you feel as a South Asian American?
There is so much pride, to be able to see the creativity that's coming out of there. I mean, this is a big year for India. They've had the most qualifying films in the shorts film category. So I'm really excited to see what unravels for these filmmakers. We are excited to be talking to Sam Vishnu, the producer and director of Tailing Pond. What an exciting time. There's so much to talk about today. So, Sam, let's start off with you and talk about the film. Tell us about the synopsis and what was the inspiration behind creating the story? Why was it so important to you?
The story is really important to me because this is my first film. When I decided to make my first film, I wanted to do something which was very meaningful, very close to my heart, and not just for commercial purpose. So I found this story through my father, and then I started researching into it. The more I started doing research, I found that this story was much more than what I had heard. So I took a flight from New York and I came back to where the story was. My father lives 20 kilometers away from the place into a small industrial town called Tatanagar. Then I started meeting local people and I started going to their houses and I started interviewing them. And then I realized that there is a lot of ongoing issues that is happening in terms of health, that is happening in terms of their daily livelihood, their lifestyle. Everything is just not normal. And that was the time when I decided to document this and turn it into a film, my first film.
And real quickly, just for our audiences, if you could just give me 2 to 3 lines about what the film is about, because I know there are people that are not living in normal situations, but they've actually been affected by something.
Yes, so the film is about the population of Jadugoda who are living and how the nuclear waste that is surrounding them is affecting their health. There's a lot of nuclear waste that is produced in Jadugoda, and that happens because there is a government company called Uranium Corporation of India Limited. They extract uranium and then they dump these uranium waste into open pits called tailing pond. A tailing pond is a man-made device where you have humongous structure. There are 9 tailing ponds like that in Jadugoda. And in the film, I have tried to show the life around just one of the tailing ponds, but there are more structures there. And a lot of people live in the vicinity of those tailing ponds. And with time, they have gotten very sick. The land is contaminated, the air is contaminated, everything around there is contaminated. It's a bad situation out there.
It's sad to see how these people are being affected. Now, what's so interesting about this entire experience, it's your first film, and we have so much to talk about because I know it hasn't been the easiest for you to make
No,
it
it hasn't.
this far. But Carter, what's so interesting about this is he had actually seen your film prior. So, Carter, tell us about your interaction with Sam and how you saw his film, and what was it for you that impacted you that you wanted to see this film kind of come out into the forefront?
Well, it actually was kind of an interesting story. About a year ago, the winner of the Best of India Short Film Festival was a film starring Nesruddin Shah. At the screening of the film, I sat next to his wife, Ratna Shah, and she leaned over to me and had me tell her about ShortsTV. She's a well-known actress in India. And she said, you know, Carter, one of the things that you need to pay attention to is there are many of these documentary films that are very good, and they incorporate very important issues that are so critical to India right now. And I promised her, I'll be on the special lookout for those, and I hope there's some great ones. And I love docs. Then I was at a film festival, and I went to a screening and saw Sam's film. It was amazing and very compelling, and just the kind of film that I promised that I would, we at ShortsTV would really bring to our audiences.
Before we talk a little bit more even about the film, because I think a lot of filmmakers would be curious to know this. So, okay, Carter saw the film at the Jaipur Film Festival, but from there, what happened to help get you qualified for the Oscar selection? So if you could talk a little bit about that, and then Carter can chime in. That way people can understand, because I'm sure there were a couple of other steps that were taken along the way.
It has been a long journey. The film went to a lot of other festivals before it got nominated. Not nominated. I mean, I hope so. But before it became qualified for the Oscars, the film went to win New York Indian Film Festival. The film went to officially screen in I think around 20 festivals after that. And then me and Carter were working along the way of how we could, make this film eligible for the Oscars. And then there was Corona and COVID and all that stuff, and the whole world just shut down. And still, the film somehow kept going into the virtual film festivals. It kept making a place for itself. So me and Carter, we kept touch, and we kept talking about how we could, take the film to the next level. And that's how it happened. Carter stepped in, and then we made the film eligible for Oscars.
Ah, I see.
What we did was we worked with Sam, and he allowed us to release the film in Los Angeles to paying audiences, and people went in Los Angeles to view the film and see it and loved it, and then it was qualified.
Amazing. But definitely a journey, Sam. Definitely a journey.
Definitely a journey.
Couple of things come up as you both mentioned some wonderful points, and I can imagine when you do a film like this, yes, it's beyond filmmaking because you are so invested. Now, for you, I mean, you're a first-time filmmaker. You invested your own money. You're dealing with this company who doesn't really want you in this territory. I find it amazing. You had Cynthia Nixon tied to the project.
Yes.
And you had a crew that was international.
No.
It's not a full Indian crew. How did you manage to bring, with some award-winning people that were a part of your crew as well, how did you manage to bring these people together?
It took time. It took me 5 years to make this film, and let me tell you, I have no degree in filmmaking. So the story is really very meaningful. The story is where I found the truth of my life. So I took this story and I started approaching a lot of people, and I wanted some big names for this movie. And being a first time filmmaker, everybody told me, so look, don't waste your time with UTA and WME. They are not even going to like respond to your. In my culture, in Indian culture, even if you go to gods, we take some kind of offering to the gods, some fruits, some flowers, basic stuff, nothing else, just something. I developed a pitch. I created an email, and then I started shooting them an email and started following up with them. And slowly they started to respond. And I started getting more responses from all the top agencies. And I spoke to many, many, many people. I looked for a talent for 1 year before I could find Cynthia. If I knew if Cynthia was the one, maybe I would have gone to her directly, and that would have saved so much of my time and energy. And this movie would have been out in 2019. A long story short, the UTA, they worked with me and they introduced me to Cynthia, and Cynthia watched the film, and I think she immediately fell in love with the film. We met in New York, and she is wonderful. She just came into the studios, and I think we did only two takes, and that's it. And that's it. We got it. I mean,
She was great at the Indian
yeah.
names. She pronounced them very
Yeah,
well.
she is. Yeah, she came so prepared. I didn't even have to tell her anything. I didn't have to tell her that, Cynthia, this is this. So she did it once, and then she looked at me. It's like, Sam, would you want me to go again? I was like, yeah, this is so good. Yeah, go again. And then she went again, and then we hanged out for a while, and that was it.
So it
So
was the love for the theme and the project that really got
Cynthia
her
is
into
Cynthia
it.
is very vocal. She's a good activist. She's a good human being. She's really very compassionate, and it shows in her voice when you hear Cynthia's voice in the film.
Condemned by the international community, India is restricted from purchasing uranium on the global market. To feed their weapons program and their nuclear power plants, the government secretly expands uranium mining in Jadagora. A terrible price will be paid by the tribal people who live there.
I am so thrilled to be talking to Bollywood actress Vidya Balan, who, by the way, I'm a huge fan of. Now, we're going to talk about that part later. But Vidya, what was your reaction when you found out that Natkhat was in the running for the Best Short Live Action category for this year's Oscars? I mean, what does this mean to you?
I'm not sure it's sunk in yet, Rasha, because, I got a lot of congratulatory messages when it made news. And I was like, okay, thank you. But I didn't know how to react beyond that. I think it's wonderful that we've made it thus far. I, of course, hope that we go even further. It's so gratifying because it's the most unselfish, uncalculated, decision I made. I just responded to the story, and I liked Shan Vyas's vision, who's the director on the film. And I said, okay, what does it, require of me? 3 days? I'm going to do this. And that's literally what happened. And of course, then I got involved as producer, thanks to Ronnie Screwvala. So I was like, wow, it already started with a bonus, because for the first time I have my name appear twice in a film, as actor and as producer. So I think this film has been doubly joyous on a lot of counts.
How exciting, Vidya. Were there any things that you learned along the way as a producer, or maybe some elements that were really important for this film? I mean, you're telling a very empowering story within a 30-minute time frame, which I can imagine is very challenging.
Honestly, when Shanvyas came to me and I read the story, I had actually read a synopsis before he came to me, and I liked it, which is why I asked for a meeting. And, he narrated it to me, and I said, are you sure you can tell this story in 30 minutes? I couldn't believe that. And he said, it is going to be a short film. It's going to be a 30-minute film. And I said, if you manage that, if you manage a punch in the gut in 30 minutes, then I want to see how you do it. I couldn't have imagined it, but I'm so happy that we've used the short film format, because honestly, this is not only a powerful film, it's also a very disturbing film. So, beyond 30 minutes might have been too much for anyone to take. So I think we've got it just right.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's disturbing, but it's a very important message. And I think, with both of us being South Asian women, I mean, I've grown up here in the US, you're in India, but there's still those cultural factors, right, that we have seen and grown up with. So do you think, being that this film, as an Oscar qualified film, do you think that it's going to help in getting this important message out to the public?
I think so, because all over the world we are having these conversations now, especially like you said in India and a lot of the other maybe not so developed countries. Because this is a reality that women face on a day-to-day basis, and this misogyny is so deep rooted. Even women can be misogynistic because they don't know any better, and because we've been trained to put men before us, put men and their needs and their desires and everything to do with a man before us, whether that's your father or your brother, your husband or your son. You always put the man before you. That translates into subjugation in various ways. But I think misogyny runs so deep that I'm not sure that I can claim I'm not misogynistic entirely. I think it is work in progress. When we talk about empowerment, I think it is definitely work in progress for most of the women I know.
Vidya, you've said so many profound things in that statement. I read somewhere that Sean actually was inspired to write the script after being triggered by an issue that occurred in India. So I'm curious to know from you, here in 2021, in a country that worships devis or goddesses that are female, why is it that people are still having a difficult time giving that same respect to women? I mean, we're dealing with, the message in this film is about gender inequality and misogyny. Let me know your thoughts on that.
We don't want to be treated like a goddess. We just want to be treated like humans. I think let's start there. We've been venerated enough in temples, through idols, but I think just we are blood and bones, and we have feelings and we have desires and we have dreams, and that needs to get acknowledged.
From an actress perspective, do you feel like there's going to be that change occurring over the next few years with your fellow actors and colleagues, that they may start considering short films? I mean, that's happening here in Hollywood too. I think in the recent years we've seen that change. But what does that mean? What does that mean for the Bollywood industry and the talent that works there?
I just think that our minds have opened up, because today there are so many avenues for you to tell a story. It's not so much the medium as much as the story you're telling. So like I said, I can't imagine making this a full-length feature film. Natkhat would be very difficult to stomach as a 1.5 2 hour film. You needed it to be this length. So my greed as an actor is to be able to just tell stories across mediums. I really am a medium agnostic. I just want to tell stories. Tomorrow, if you bring me a mobile phone and say, I want to shoot this, I'll be, if I like the story, I'd be happy to do it. Especially now, I think post the pandemic, people's minds have opened up all the more. If anyone had any reservations about consuming content and therefore, making content for the OTT platforms, that's changing. So I'm sure even short films will see more, as you call them, more established actors or stars.
Vidya, what an exciting and proud moment for you. As we look at the Oscars qualifying list, we see a lot of short films have come in from India. But as someone who's been a part of the Mumbai film industry or Bollywood, do you think that this is going to be changing the trajectory as far as storytelling goes? Because I'm really excited to see that. I mean, I think we could both say that obviously Bollywood is such a huge part of the culture and for people in India, even outside of India, right?
Seeing so many Indian films make it to this shortlist, I think itself is so, so encouraging. People will definitely, for that, if for nothing else, want to give it a shot. But I hope they do it for the right reasons, and not just in the hope that they'll make it to this shortlist someday. Shujoy Ghosh, who's one of my favorite directors with whom I've done Kahani and Kahani 2, he did a short film a few years ago when, I remember asking him, what are you doing? And he said, I'm making a short film. And I said, what's that? Who's going to watch it? So much has changed since. And a lot of well-established directors are definitely veering towards that. So I definitely think it will bring about a change in the storytelling culture. It will diversify it for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what other narratives come out of India. And I just want to say, Vidya, thank you for the work that you do, not only just in India, but across the world. I mean, you have such a huge fan following, including me, of course, but it's just, you're such an inspiration.
Thank you so much. I'm really, really humbled.
Okay, Carter, can I just have my fangirl moment? I love Vidya Balan. And you know what? For anyone who doesn't know her, she is one of Bollywood's biggest stars. It's not about the fame for her, but truly she is one of the crusaders who's taken on some of the biggest stereotypes and really showcased those on and off screen. So, man, hats off to her. Hats off to her. That's all I'm going to say.
She was amazing. I have to say that was a real high to end this episode on. To have somebody like that, and in a short movie, that's the best.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget, the Oscar shortlist comes out tonight. More than 300 qualified films will become 30 nominees, 10 in each category.
I'm nervous for all 300 filmmakers. Good luck to all of them.
Yeah, my goodness. It's a nail biter, I'd have to say. So join us later this week for our next episode with insights on the shortlist.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Road to the Oscars. This podcast is brought to you by ShortsTV and is not affiliated with the Oscars or the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences in any way.